we'll go ahead and get started. Thanks again for everyone being here. This is a OAA webinar that is here to focus on the recent updates made to OAA's grants portal. This is primarily going to be focused for cities and counties as their application period will be closing soon. There will be a separate webinar scheduled in the future for state agencies. Though if there's any state agencies that that are people that are on and want to listen, you're certainly welcome. There are plenty of similarities across the process. So today's presenters, myself, Director of Operations for the OAA, Charlie Linticum. We also have with us our Senior Manager for Grant Operations, Sharika Bridges, and then our Senior Business Analyst, Matt Terrell. And so the main focus on the updates is going to be the direct distribution report has a new layout that should be easier to put information in and reconcile. And then also mostly the focus is going to be the budget portion for the renewal, which has significantly changed. There are more steps, but they are smaller steps in a way to try to provide validations where need be, flexibility where need be, and make sure that you all can see all the numbers that you're looking for amongst what is your carry forward and what is your new year request and those types of things. And so for the agenda, we'll start off with a couple of renewal reminders for FY27. And then Sharika will walk through the portal login page, registration, accessing, and then look at the updates for the renewals. And then Matt will take over and walk through a couple of examples on the test side of the portal. When this recording, once it is ready, should be sent out to you all by email. And it will also be available along with this slide deck on the Abatement Academy web page. And if we can, we'll also get a news blast out when it is ready. And so from there, I think I'll turn it over to Sharika.
Thank you, Charlie. Good morning, everyone. So we will start out with some fiscal year 2027 renewal reminders. One thing we do want to reiterate is to start the renewal process early. Those renewal applications are to be submitted through the OAA Grants portal, and they are due by 11:59 p.m. on Wednesday, April 1st. And just a reminder for everyone, all submitted renewal applications and any new applications, all applications must be electronically signed by your city or county executive or someone that has signature authority to conduct business on behalf of the city or county. As you're working through the FY27 renewal process, make sure that you're coordinating with your city or county finance or budget team, and you want to do that to ensure that you are accurately reporting your FY26 expenditures. And we just want to reiterate that inaccurate reporting of your FY26 expenditures can and possibly will impact your FY27 award amounts if the project is approved for renewal. Then we also want to reiterate all cities and counties that are participating in an OAA funded project are required to complete a direct distribution report. Now, for any individual distribution renewal applications, that direct distribution report can be done as a part of the individual distribution renewal application because it's embedded into that application. But for any fiscal agent cities or counties that are on cooperative partnership projects and even the cooperative partner localities, you all will have to actually go into the grants management section of the portal and complete the direct distribution report through that process. Just want to reiterate the deadline for both your renewal application as well as your direct distribution reports. Those should all be completed, submitted, e-signed. All of those things should be completed by April 1st, 11:59 p.m. on April 1st. And then as you're working through your renewal process, be sure to engage with your respective OAA, local government opioid settlement liaison. So we have embedded a link here for any locality that may be unsure who your respective liaison is. Make sure that you're reaching out to them for any type of requests related to technical assistance, or if you have any questions, we'll be certainly happy to address those questions and provide guidance as you're working through the FY27 renewal process. And then the last reminder that we want to provide is if your city or county has a project, an OAA funded project that is potentially scheduled to end at the end of FY26. So based on your previous OAA awards, you've indicated that the project will be ending at the end of FY26, so around June 30th, 2026. Please, please, please reach out to your OAA liaison so that we can kind of get some additional information, specifically in regards to your expenditures and your progress throughout the FY26 award process, so that we can know if you may need to submit a renewal application for FY27. So we would have to kind of review those on a case-by-case scenario to provide guidance on the best plan of action for you to move forward. So please reach out to us as soon as possible if you're in that situation, and we can provide some additional guidance. So as we're going into the portal and we're kind of working through the process of getting into the portal so that we can start the renewal process, we want to reiterate some reminders related to the grants portal login page. So if you forget your password or you've forgotten your password in order to get into the portal and you've already kind of had access in the past, you will need to select the forgot password option so that you can reset your password. If you are a new user and you know that you're going to be the new primary user for your city or county, there is a registration process for new primary users. So you would need to select the register option on the OAA Grants Portal landing page. Whenever you select that register option, I'll show you in the next slide, there is a process for that access registration. And then if you're an existing user or you're a new user and you have any questions or you need some resources regarding how to navigate through the portal, we have a quick start guide that is hyperlinked, as well as a user guide that you can access, but you can always certainly reach out to us if you have any questions as you're navigating through the portal. So again, let's say you are a new city or county primary user and you're looking for access to the portal on behalf of your locality. You have to, if you select the register option on the previous page, this pop-up box will appear and you'll have to go through the portal registration process. This process does require the submission of a primary contact registration letter, and that letter must be on city or county letterhead and it must be signed by your city or county executive, and that is included as a part of the registration process. So if you're requesting new primary user access for your locality, if you click the register option while on the login page for the portal, you will see there is a template for that primary contact registration letter that you can download, and then you can copy those details onto your city or county letterhead and obtain the necessary signature and attach it as a part of your portal registration process here. If an existing city or county primary user is looking to add any secondary users, they can do so by going through the members option. It's one of the tabs on the left-hand side of the screen when you're logged into the portal. They can select the members option and they can add secondary users through that process. So let's say you have gotten logged into the portal and you're trying to navigate through the portal to figure out where you need to go to start working on your FY27 renewal applications. So on the left-hand side, you'll see kind of the different tabs, and we have the grants management tab outlined. That is the tab that you will go to begin working on your FY27 renewals, whether it's an individual distribution or a cooperative partnership. You'll select grants management, and then you will select the respective grant for which you're looking to complete a renewal application for. So now that we've covered some things regarding reminders, getting into the portal, requesting access, we'll kind of talk through some of the portal updates specifically for the FY27 renewal applications. So as Charlie was mentioning, we had some updates to the direct distribution report. Again, this information and this section is embedded to the individual distribution applications. So some of the updates, as you can see on the screen here, we have provided some help text at the top under the direct distribution information header. So we have help text embedded all throughout the portal at this point to provide you with some additional guidance regarding the different sections. Now, as it relates to the direct distribution amounts received section, which is the section that is outlined in red here, if you're completing this direct distribution report for the first time, you will need to select the Add New box and add the respective fiscal years. However, for the FY27 renewals, your previous fiscal year data is most likely already included in the direct distribution report. So if you need to edit any of the received amounts, you can click the checkbox by each respective fiscal year and select the edit button to edit the received amount by fiscal year. You will also most likely need to add fiscal year 26 because the last time most of our localities completed this renewal process was for FY25. So we do want to reiterate that you may have to click the Add New button to add the FY26 received amount. In this first section, you're only reporting on your direct settlement funds that were received by fiscal year. So this is only the amounts that you have received. We do want to reiterate that you do not need to include settlement funds paid to cities and counties related to the McKinsey settlement. And the reason being that settlement is not a part of the Commonwealth Settlement MOU. And then we've also been made aware that several localities have received settlement payments from Henry Schein. And that is also not a part of the direct distribution settlement MOU. So it's not included in the lookup tool. And so you will not report on that either. And then again, we want to reiterate for the direct distribution amounts received, you want to make sure that you're adding the amounts your locality received through fiscal year 2026. So the next section is related to your amounts expended. And so again, once you add those fiscal years and the previous amounts for the amounts received, you will see that they automatically populate for the second section of the direct distribution report. So in order to edit the amounts expended or allocated to OAA projects, expended or allocated to non-OAA projects, and the amounts that your locality may have set aside for abatement projects via reserve, you will select the respective checkbox for the fiscal year, and then you're going to select the edit button. And when you do this, we also have, if you see underneath the amounts expended or allocated by fiscal year table, there are some additional help text that is provided there. So when we talk about amounts expended or allocated to OAA projects versus non-OAA projects, when we mention OAA projects, those are projects that have received approved grants by the OAA. When we talk about non-OAA projects, those are projects that have not resulted in grants awarded by the OAA. So a non-OAA project could be an actual abatement effort, but it will not be something that the OAA has previously awarded a grant for. And then the amounts reserved are just any funding that you've set aside and has not been allocated for use as of this moment. So once you enter in your information for those three categories for each fiscal year, and again, you'll select the respective checkbox by the fiscal year and click Edit to do so, you will get a grand total. You'll see a reconciliation. And under this reconciliation, you'll see the grand total that your city or county has received, the grand total that your city or county has expended, allocated, or reserved, and then any unallocated balances. And then the final section of the direct distribution updates are related to if your city or county reports expending any direct settlement funds for non-OAA projects. Again, those are projects that are not current OAA grants. You would need to indicate what those non-OA projects are by indicating the project name, any amounts expended or allocated, the project's start date and the projected end date, and then a brief description of the project, as well as notifying whether or not the project continues into the next year. So for some renewals, you may have that information already pre-populated from previously submitted direct distribution reports, but if not, you will need to select the Add New box to add a new non-OA project if your city or county has expended funds to an effort that is not currently listed. And then once you enter in that information, you will have a reconciliation of non-OA expended and or allocated amounts. So you'll be able to see what the total amount expended or allocated by fiscal year includes, the total amount expended or allocated by project, and then you will have a balance. There is another question that indicates whether or not your city or county intends to reserve any portion of its direct distribution funds for future abatement efforts. You will indicate yes or no, and based on your answer for that question, if you indicate yes, we will ask for some additional information regarding your reserve of direct distribution funds for future efforts. And then once you've indicated all of that information, you are good to save and go to the next section. Now, one thing I do want to indicate, moving back to the non-OA project section, let's say your city or county has not utilized direct settlement funds related to a non-OAA effort, then you would simply skip that section. So moving on to updates, this is mainly related to the project proposal page. So there is a section within the project proposal portion of the renewal application where your city or county will need to indicate whether or not there's any subrecipients, contractors, or vendors that will be receiving a portion or all of the funding that you're requesting from the OAA. And so if your project does have a subrecipient or contractor or a vendor, you will need to indicate that organization's name, how much funding they're going to receive as a part of their role for the project. You will also need to specify and provide a description of their role, indicate whether this is a new subrecipient, new contractor, or vendor, or if you are renewing their role from a previous fiscal year. And then you'll also need to indicate the entity type and whether or not that subrecipient will have subrecipients of their own. And so because of the nature of the renewal applications, several of your applications may already have organizations listed. And so if they are going to be continuing or if you're looking to remove them, you would simply select the checkbox by the name of the organization and edit to edit the details specific to your FY27 renewal application. However, in those instances where you need to add a new subrecipient contractor or vendor, you'll simply select the Add New option and you can enter all of those details for the new organization that will be serving a role on your project. We also want to reiterate that for any subrecipients, contractors, vendors, any organization that is going to be receiving a portion of the funds that you're requesting for your renewal application, the fiscal agent, city or county should have a written agreement with those organizations. That can be in the form of a contract, an MOU, etc. But you will need to have that agreement in place before the OAA will provide funds if your renewal application is approved. And so while you're going through the application process, if you have that documentation, there is a section when you click into the details of each respective organization, there's a section for you to attach any agreements. That way, if you have any draft agreements, we recommend attaching those as well. However, if you do not have it at the time of your application, again, we want you to be prepared and be aware that that could potentially, or it will potentially be a contingency if your renewal is approved for award for FY27. And then one final note related to subrecipients. So the any type of city or county departments that may be receiving funds, you will not need a written agreement with those because they are a part of the fiscal agent, city or county. So we just wanted to kind of reiterate what we categorize as a subrecipient versus just an agent or a locality department. So now we're going to move into the updates related to the budget. So the budget is currently broken up into current year expenses, current year funding sources, upcoming and out year expenses, and upcoming and out year funding sources. So the first part of the budget is related to current year personnel expenses. When you get to this page, you are going to report on your FY27 current year-to-date expenditures. So you can see the first column is your current year-to-date expenditures, and you're going to report on those current year-to-date expenditures based on the date that you are submitting or completing your renewal application. You're also going to complete your projected year in total expenditures. So this is what you project to spend by June 30th of 2026. So by the end of the fiscal year, this is what you're projecting to spend. And you will have to do this for the personnel expenses. So if you have any salaried staff, if you have any part-time hourly wage staff, you'll have to do this for each personnel line item that was approved as a part of your FY26 award. And so to do this, you will select the checkbox by the respective line item, and then you'll select the edit button. And you'll have to do this again for all of your salaried positions that were approved and all of your hourly wage positions that were approved. So when you select this checkbox and you select edit, this is what appears. This is the pop-up box that appears. And so you'll have your position type description listed here. You'll have how much was awarded for that respective line item expense. This is where you're going to indicate your current to date expenditure. So this is what you have actually spent at the time that you're completing the renewal. And then you'll indicate your projected year-end total expenditures. And this is what you're projecting to spend at the end of the fiscal year. And you will have to do this for all of your personnel line items that was approved again as a part of your FY26 budget. Same process for your operating and capital expenses. So again, you'll see your approved line items that were approved as a part of your FY26 budget. You'll see how much was awarded for each line item. You will need to indicate your current year-to-date expenses for each respective operating and capital line item. And you'll also need to do the same regarding your projected year-end total expenses. So what do you project to spend at the end of the fiscal year for each of your operating and capital line items? So to do that, it's the same process. You're going to click the checkbox and you're going to click the edit button. And when you do that, the same pop-up will appear. So here you'll see your line item description. You'll see how much was awarded for that respective line item. You're going to enter your current expenditures at the time you're completing the renewal application, and then what you project to spend for that respective line item at the end of the fiscal year. And then you'll save your information and you'll do that for each of your operating and capital line items. So once you finish entering in that information for your personnel expenses, your operating and your capital expenses, then you will come to your current year funding source page. And this is where you're going to do kind of the same process. So for each of your funding sources, whether it's non-OAA matching funds or OAA awarded funds for fiscal year 26, you're going to select the checkbox beside that respective funding source, and then you're going to click the edit option. And when you do that, the pop-up box will appear and it's the same process. So you will see how much was awarded. You would enter in how much you've expended currently at the time you're completing the renewal application. And then you'd indicate your projected expenditures, what you're projecting to spend by the end of the fiscal year. So by June 30th. Once you do that, then you will be able to scroll down to look at your expenses section. And again, you won't have to edit anything for this section because it's going to be automatically populated and calculated based on the information that you've entered for your personnel expenses, your operating, and your capital expenses. But the main thing that you do want to ensure is your reconciliation section, just to make sure that what you have reported for your current year-to-date expenditures for your expenses align with what you've reported for your revenue sources or your funding sources. And the same for your projected year-end total expenditures between the expenses and your funding sources. And so when you look here, you can see the reconciliation of your current year expenditures by fund source and by category, and then your current year project or your projected expenditures by fund source and by category. And the key to making sure that you've entered everything correctly is the fact these two difference amounts should be zero. So you shouldn't have anything between these two difference amounts because these two totals should reconcile and these two totals should reconcile. So in moving on to the budget related to your FY27 renewal year, as well as any out year budgets for personnel expenses. So after you have indicated your current year, your current expenses as of the time that you're completing the application, and then your projected expenses, that information will help calculate carry forward amounts. And you'll see carry forward amounts related to your personnel expenses. So any salaried staff positions, any hourly wage part-time staff positions, once you enter information for the current year pages, you will see carry forward amounts that are automatically calculated. In this section, you can enter any revisions to projected amounts for the upcoming year, so for FY27, or for any out years for each of your line items. And to do this, you will select the checkbox beside the respective line item, and then you're going to click Edit. Because this page is related to FY27, so your upcoming year as well as out years, you can also select Add New to add any new line items that you may need for FY27 or you may need for any other years after FY27 based on your budget. And so to do that, you would just click Add New, and then you can add your position type and description, and that new line item will appear underneath the line items that are already there. If carry forward is needed for the line item, but you are also looking to request new funding for the line item, you will need to add the carry forward amount. So you'll see your carry forward here. When you click Edit, you'll have what you want to request for carry forward for that line item. If you need carry forward plus new funding for the line item, you need to add the two totals together, and that is going to be your FY27 total. If your carry forward is going to reduce what you're requesting to support the line item in FY27, then you will only add the amount of new funding that you are requesting for FY27. We also want to reiterate for this page, if you have any positions that are going to be hired or employed by any subrecipients, those positions should not be added to this personnel page. So those are considered operating expenses, and you would need to indicate the subrecipient's name and indicate that their personnel expenses and the total amount being requested as a part of that on the operating page. So only positions that are employed by the applicant for fiscal agent, city or county should be entered here. So as you're working through this, this is just kind of a pop-up to show what it looks like when you're editing a line item related to personnel expenses. So you'll see your position type or description. Your carry forward amount will automatically calculate from the other sections you've completed, and then you can indicate how much based on your carry forward amount you want to request to support the position, and then you would indicate your up year amount. So this is going to actually show us FY27, but it'll show FY27 upcoming renewal year. And then you would indicate the amounts that you're requesting for your renewal year as well as any out years. So again, we want to reiterate the scenario. So if you're requesting carry forward, but you also need additional funding, you're going to add how much the new additional funding plus the carry forward amount together, and that's going to be your upcoming renewal request amount. If your carry forward is reducing how much funding that you need in the upcoming renewal year, then you would just indicate how much new funding that you need for the upcoming renewal year. Same process with your operating and capital expenses. So again, on the summary page, your carry forward available amount is going to automatically calculate. You will be able to request how much carry forward based on your available amounts that you want to request for the line item. And then you can indicate your renewal year and any out years. If you're looking to continue a line item for your renewal year, you would just simply click the checkbox and click edit. However, if you have some new operating line items that you want to add, you will just click add new and then provide information regarding that line item and what you're requesting for your renewal year and any out years to support that line item. Same process for capital expenses. And so with this, we want to reiterate a few things related to operating and capital expenses. So for operating expenses, you can include any administrative expenses. Again, if you have a subrecipient and they have expenses, those costs are indicated as operating expense. We do want to remind you all that the fiscal agent, city or county, cannot utilize or request funding to support indirect costs. So indirect costs are not allowable for the recipient city or county. And then related to capital expenses. So capital expenses should only include large vehicles. If you have a mobile treatment unit, any land purchases, any building purchases, building and construction or renovations, etc., those are considered capital expenses. And just to kind of make you aware as a part of this renewal process, if you're requesting any funding, OAA funding to support capital expenses, if that request is approved for award, you will most likely have a contingency to provide us with a completed and executed capital cost agreement. And that agreement basically ensures that the capital asset remains in use for the approved abatement purpose for a period of 15 years, or the awardee city or county risks the repayment of funds. So we just want to make you aware of that contingency for capital expenses up front, and that's something to consider as you're working through your application process. So as you're going through and you are editing or updating your capital and your operating and capital expenses, this is what it looks like when you edit an existing expense. So you'll see the description, you'll see how much carry forward was available, how much you can request. So you can request up to 1,000 for this example, and then you would indicate how much funding you'll need to support the line item for the upcoming renewal year. So for this example, you can see there was $1,000 worth of carry forward available to support item 2. This example shows that the city is requesting to use that $1,000 in carry forward to support this line item expense. And so you can see the request for the renewal year shows 4,000, and this is inclusive of the typical 3,000 that was requested for this line item, plus the 1,000 of carry forward. So they added the carry forward plus any new funding that they need to support this particular line item. And that's why you see the 4,000 here. So this is just an example. Then moving on to the upcoming and out year funding sources. So for this section, you are going to have your non-OAA funding sources if you have any non-OAA matching funds, and then it's broken up between non-OAA and OAA funding sources. So for this section, if you have an existing non-OAA funding source that you're looking to carry over any funds into the renewal FY27 year, or if you're looking to request or match any new funding related to a non-OA funding source that's already listed, you will simply click the checkbox and you'll click Edit. If you're looking to add any new non-OAA funding sources, you will simply need to click the Add New box here. One thing that is different related to the funding sources that you will need to keep in mind, and we'll kind of talk through and show an example. The carry forward is broken out separately related to your funding sources. So if you have any carry forward available amounts, you can request those amounts, but you do not need to add the carry forward amounts for your upcoming renewal year requests. So we'll kind of talk through an example of that specifically. So again, looking here at your OAA funding sources, the same process as non-OA funding sources. You click the checkbox, you can edit or you can add a new funding source depending on if it is a cooperative and or if you are a Go Standard locality. And so you can see here you have $1,000 of carry forward available. They are requesting to use $1,000 of the available carry forward, and then they're requesting $8,000 of additional new money in addition to the carry forward. So when you look at how it lays out for the funding sources, you can see the 1,000 plus the 8,000 here. Their new request is actually 9,000. So these two totals are added together and they should align and reconcile with what is being requested as a part of the expenses for the upcoming renewal year. So again, for your funding sources for upcoming and out year, you will not have to add carry forward totals to what you're requesting. You would just simply need to request it as a standalone for the current fiscal year. So this would be fiscal year 26, and you would be able to request it this way. And then if you're looking to edit an OAA funding source, so when you click that edit box next to an OAA funding source, your funding source will already pre-populate. Again, the amount of carry forward available will automatically calculate. You will indicate how much of the carry forward that's available you want to request, and then you will indicate any requested funding, OAA funding related to your renewal year and any request for the out years. Then once you've entered all of that information for the upcoming out year funding sources page, at the bottom of the page, you will see something called a funding request reconciliation. This is where you will be able to see any non-OAA carry forward funds and any non-OAA new funds that are being requested by fiscal year. You'll also be able to see any total OAA carry forward funds and any total OAA new funds that are being requested, again by fiscal year. And then you'll be able to see total funds requested and total expenses. So your total funds requested and your total expenses, those should align and be the same total. Then you can see differences. So the key for making sure that all of your information is entered and everything reconciles, again, is that these differences for all of your fiscal years shown, so for your renewal year and any out years, the difference should always reconcile and be 0. So if you have a total here that's 100 or whatever, then you would know that something is not reconciled and we need to make some additional edits. And then once you go past the funding sources page, out year current funding sources page, you will see a budget summary. And this budget summary will give you, again, kind of a snapshot view of your OAA funding sources. So your current year information, what was awarded, what your current expenditures are at the time you're completing your application, what were your projected expenditures for June 30th of 2026, any carry forward available, any carry forward you're requesting, and then any new funding that you are requesting for the renewal year. You'll also see any proposed amounts that are entered in for any out years. And you'll see that by non-OAA funding source, OAA funding source. You'll see it based on your expenses that you've entered, and then you'll also see the funding request reconciliation. Again, that will give you a snapshot of any non-OAA funding, so carry forward and new funding, any OAA carry forward and OAA new requested funding, your total requested funds, and your total expenses all by fiscal year. And again, your differences here should all reconcile to zero. And so once you go past the budget summary and you look to progress to the next part of the renewal application, you will receive a confirmation pop-up box. This confirmation pop-up will give you how much you're requesting for carry forward, so OAA carry forward funds, as well as how much additional funding you're requesting for the upcoming renewal year. So this is to kind of help you understand if maybe you're looking to request 5,000 and carry forward and you receive this pop-up box, then you know something is not reconciling correctly. And then that is your cue to reach out to the OAA, to your liaison, so that we can kind of assist you in getting everything reconciled and see kind of how we can align things. So once you receive this confirmation, if everything looks good in terms of what you're looking to request for carry forward approval, and how much new funding you're looking to request, both from the OAA for the upcoming renewal year, then you can click the confirm button and you will have progressed past the budget section of the renewal application. And so with that being said, I am going to turn it over to my colleague, Matt Terrell, and he will provide an actual example of the grants portal.
Good morning, everyone. Give me 1 second to um, screen shared here. Okay, so today I am in our UAT environment. So I'm actually using Spotsylvania County, but don't worry, I'm not messing with any of their actual funds. This is more of our test environment. So I am going to be going through Spotsylvania County 2027 cooperative renewal. Let's get started. Quick resume here. I have already gone into the grants management section and begun this application. So I can just click resume from the dashboard. See, hopefully it didn't time me out here. While we were waiting for this to load, oh, never mind, there it goes. We'll go ahead. All right, so I will skip through a few of these. You can see we have the instructions. We have the fiscal agent information and the contact information for them. This is a bit different from the individual distribution, where you will see, instead of the fiscal agent or the cooperative partners contact information, what you will see is the direct distribution page in the individual distribution. So you can do that directly there. Okay, you can see I've gone through the project narrative. For this one, I'm just going to request to modify the matching funds and fill out my amending explanation. And then if there's any of these answers need to change, you can update them here. And also, if the explanation is a bit longer, you can always drag down from this bottom corner to make a little bit more space. But I will click Save Next. And here is where we get to our, oh, no. As I said, this is a test environment, so it got a little bit messed up there. Let me see if I can work on our individual application. My apologies for that.
And real quick, while Matt's doing that, there's a few questions that have come in the Q&A or in the chat. I'm responding to some things in writing, but when we get through the rest of the demo, we'll answer these questions in the meeting as well as open up to any other ones. So feel free to put stuff in if you want, and or you can wait till we open it up.
So here we are. Let me go back to this real quick. Here you can see the direct distribution information. And let's see. So we will go ahead and add our 2026. We receive $1,000. Save. Go down to the bottom. Amounts expended or allocated by fiscal year. See the 2026 line has been added here. And just put 1,000 there. And then you can review what's been received, the total expended, and the unallocated balance. And then if you have any non-OAA project information, you can add it here. I'll fill out if there's any amending. If not, just put. I will do this. So here we have our naloxone purchaser. And what happened was this person was awarded $2,000 here. And I was going to put current year-to-date expenditures as 500 and projected year-end expenditures as $1,000 is not going to let me. I really do apologize for this. I had all of this ready. Let's see if this one. Charlie, I am sorry. I do not know what happened here. I think something we updated on the back end has messed with our UAT environment. It was working for me yesterday when I tested it.
Okay. Well, I think probably the best thing to do at this point is we can go ahead and go over to any questions that people have, and when we get this fixed, we can always walk through a video example and send out to everyone, via the newsletter, so that there's a way that you can see this, and then we can also walk through it again on the webinar we have scheduled for February 5th. So we'll give a couple of opportunities for you all to be able to see this in action. Apologies for something not working today. I think it's the first time that's happened on all of these demos that we've done. So I'm going to go to some of the questions that have come through already. There was a question for the link to the YouTube channel that's been posted in the chat, along with the link to the Abatement Academy page where the slide deck and link to this recording and others will be posted. There was a question about, and Sharika was talking about the capital expenses. There's a 15-year provision on capital expenses, and do they apply to the direct distribution funded projects, and is there any written statements about it? So in relation to those capital projects, the expense requirements are applied to projects on a case-by-case basis, listed as a contingency. And they do not apply to the direct distributions. It only apply to OAA funds that are being used. If you have more detailed questions, better for us to talk through what it is you're doing, how you're doing it, what the cost is, and those types of things. We'll have more guidance on that when we can give better guidance when we understand the details around it. There was another question related to the direct distribution for project proposal updates regarding like contractors and things. Is this reported for OAA and non-OAA projects? So, in context of the direct distribution report, you should only be including projects there for like the individual projects that do not have any OAA funds associated with it. So, like you've purely used direct distribution for that, or direct distribution combined with other funds that are not OAA funds. If it's part of an OAA funded project, then all of the information reporting related to that gets captured through that OAA project. This is just capturing things that you all have done that are not OAA projects with an OAA grant or OAA funds involved. Right. And like I said, welcome for others to type questions in the Q&A or the chat, and or raise your hand to speak live. And I have someone I'm getting ready to recognize now. Crystal, you can unmute and ask the question. Crystal, if you're talking, we're still seeing you on mute. Can you hear
Sorry,
us? It's
I
all right.
must have clicked a button because I don't have any more questions.
Oh, okay. Just had a hand raised, so that's all right. You can click the button. I've done that myself. No worries. See, where's the Q&A? Anybody else have any other questions at the moment? I know it's a lot to look at related to the renewals, but we hope by keeping things into smaller buckets to think about and to report on, it will make it easier to get the information out and to see the totals in the different buckets of funding, be they, the OAA funds, the matching funds, carry forward, new year fund requests, and things like that, that hopefully be able to see everything. And we know that many of you, we ran into issues where unintentionally with the design of the system, some of the calculations were happening in the background and you weren't able to see how like a carry forward amount was impacting your total amount requested for the next year. So we've designed this in mind, trying to make sure that both us and you can see all the numbers. That was an error on our part, and apologies. So appreciate everyone's flexibility for working through these things with us. And your liaisons will also be doing some outreach to make sure you're okay, and you can, and they've been doing some testing on this before it got released, so they can get familiar with it to help you as well. But do always remember, we're always here to help, and start, sooner than later to give us time to help you work through any issues. And the main reason, that we extended the due date for the renewals from March 16th to April 1st was because to give you all more time to get used to this change to the system. Looks like I got another hand raise here.
Hey, Charlie.
Hey.
This is Susie Miller from Allegheny Highlands.
Yes.
Last year, one of the things that was super frustrating, we had a back office issue that Sharika and Matt and I were trying to fix. But every time we would go out and come back in, we had to re-enter all the direct distributions. Is there a place now that you can save those sections as you go through, so that it doesn't keep removing those numbers as you go through that process?
If you have entered your direct distribution and clicked save and next, it should maintain everything that you've put in there
Awesome.
for the next time
Okay.
you open up. If it does not, let us know. It's an error.
Okay,
And
great.
we can get it
Thank
fixed.
you.
Yep. But yes, and if anyone is trying to do something like that and things are not saving as you think they should, please reach out. It may be something, every so often there's still something that happens with an individual application or two that our developers have to go in. But since for renewal purposes, all of you all have been through the system, either you're going into your first renewal and you were established in the system, or we got through last year's renewal, and because everything's gone through the system once, we're hoping that should truncate a lot of the issues we ran into last year that had to do with historical data entry. Got another question?
Hello.
Hey.
Hey, quick question.
Mhm.
Last year during the cooperative partnership process, we determined that we didn't have access to the lookup tool for our cooperative partner. Is there a way that we can have access to that as opposed to going through the OAA for them to provide the estimated lookup tool? Or should that be given by the cooperative partner? It was just a lot of going back and forth trying to figure that out last year.
Yeah, so the way the system's designed, if you're in under your locality's profile, you're only going to see what's available to your locality. And then if you create the cooperative partnership, you can enter funds for those partners, but it would not give you direct access to the lookup tool. However, the lookup tool that's available in the system for each locality, the lookup tool, the Excel version that's on our website, as well as the one that's on our public dashboard, they all should have the same information in them, so that the numbers would be accurate. But ultimately, though, it's up to that locality, I think, to provide you all something in writing, even if it's just an email to say we're pledging this much funds for this year. So that because they're in control of those individual gold standard and direct funds, and they're giving you the ability to, as the fiscal agent, to file the application on their behalf. That usually keeps things easier and clearer so that everyone knows what's been um, committed. We tried to come up with a way through the system where there would be more flexibility in there for partners to work together. But what it did was it really would open up the stuff too much to where like all the partners could adjust just like a cooperative application, which just then kind of becomes a liability for the fiscal agent and things. So, but I'll put a link to the public dashboard in the chat. Matt, could you do that for us? That's probably an easier way to go pull the information than working through the Excel file. But the public dashboard pulls directly out of the portal. Does that help at least a little bit?
It does. It's just that I think last year the problem was the lookup tool, the public one hadn't been updated since October of 24. And so it didn't
Yeah.
reflect the most recent distribution or
Right.
settlement fund. So that's why we went through that process. I was just looking for an
Gotcha.
alternative. But thank you for this information.
Yes, we're trying to update more often as we go. And the current version is update through the most recent settlement stuff that we've received. We anticipate at some point Purdue is going to start paying out, and we'll update with that information when it's ready to go, and do a news blast when it's there. Right. Don't see anything else in the Q&A. Don't see anything else in the chat. Any other last questions? And again, apologize that the system demo crashed on us, but we'll get a version out for you all to be able to refer to on that as soon as we can, and then we'll walk through it again on the February 5th Q&A, which if you haven't signed up for, that's on the Abatement Academy webpage. that you can sign up for that. We'll be doing general Q&A as well as walking through the changes and updates to the terms and conditions that the board approved. And those terms and conditions will go into effect with awards that are effective July 1st of this year. All right.
Charlie, one thing I do want to reiterate is keeping an eye on the link of the additional instructions for carry forward scenarios that we have on the budget pages. We do have about 6 different carry forward scenarios that is on that. And we will be updating it if you guys come up with a new carry forward scenario that is not included on there. We will help you through it and then update that spreadsheet or that PDF so that those that also have that same carry forward scenario can access those answers as well.
Yep. And we were hoping to show you that link live in the system.
I actually can show that link live. Give me one moment here.
That's true, yeah. So basically, yeah, it basically just shows you how to enter, depending on where the carry forward's generated from and what it's being used for, as to how to put that into the system so that your numbers end up where you intend for them to, and so that it's easily trackable for both us and you. But yep.
So on any of these budget pages, you should see a link here where you can click for carry forward scenarios. We have 6 different ones. Just look here and kind of see if your scenario is listed here, and you can click on it and it will walk you through step by step how to enter the carry forward.
Yep. And if you're not sure which one you are, feel free to reach out. We're happy to chat with you to guide you to the correct one. All right. Thanks for that reminder, Matt. Well, I'm not seeing any more questions coming through, so appreciate everyone being here. Appreciate y'all's patience and diligence as we try to get this system to working better for you all. And as always, we're available. Reach out to your liaisons or us here in the central office, and we'll do our best to get you squared away. And so you all may continue to go forth and abate and get keep these projects moving. Thank you very much. We'll see you guys on February 5th.